Turquoise was an item that was valued in pre-Hispanic North America, usually associated as being one of the main trade items sent from Oasis America, now the southwestern US, to Mesoamerica. Yet in the Mojave Desert, in modern southeastern California, there were turquoise deposits, and the indigenous peoples, specifically the Chemehuevi, a branch of the Southern Paiutes, and other Mojave groups who lived there, mined the precious stone, which is attested to by having a notable oral tradition of mining and trading turquoise with the peoples of the Southwest that may have even left an influence in some of the words of their language. One Chemehuevi story was related in 1898 by Indian Johnny, the son of Chief Dacopa, who heard the story from his father concerning turquoise mining near Halloran Springs. Quote, "As this man, ancestral folk hero, told the story, he spoke as a victor, for it was he who helped to drive out the strange Pale Indians who put a wondrous value on the bright blue stone they dug from the hills. These Pale Indians, so the story runs, came into the desert from the south. They took up their abodes in caves and had many strange signs on the cliffs, petroglyphs, that they claimed had a supernatural influence. The Paiute braves saw all this and liked it not. Those people are witches, some said, and we should drive them out. But none dared to make the attack, for the Pale Indians were powerful men and had great hammers of stone with which they could strike death-dealing blows, and so the Pale Indians were allowed to live in peace for many moons. They multiplied in numbers and became prosperous. The Paiutes liked them less and less as the years wore on, and at last decided to drive them out. Just how this was done, history does not tell in detail, but there was a great war and the Paiutes lost many of their best men. So many that at one time they despaired of the task. In the end, however, they won. The Pale Indians were nearly all killed, and those who were not ran away, never to come back. Behind them they left all of their tools and utensils to be covered up by the sand of the desert, and there some of them are lying yet, for no Paiute ever went near the place. They said it was haunted ground." Unquote. According to researchers, the significance of this story is that it may be a memory of an incursion by the Patlayan peoples on an expedition to mine turquoise and being expelled by the Southern Paiute group at the time. It is important to mention the root word for blue-green in Chemehuevi is sawa, the same as the Tewa word for the color. Scholars attribute this to some sort of contact and trade of turquoise between the Mojave peoples and those of the Southwest. One Chemehuevi individual who was interviewed in the 70s, going by the initials of DL, spoke of how the Halloran mines were known by his people, stating that his father and grandfather would go there, and it was probably passed down from grandfather's father and so on. He also went on to describe mines along the Colorado River, stating that 4 or 5 able-bodied men, never any woman, would go on trips to the mine, using the Deer Song Trail, starting at Bowswash and would head west of the Colorado River into the Mojave Sink. What is interesting about this is that the Deer Song Trail was mostly used by the northern Chemehuevi, and a southern Chemehuevi like DL being familiar shows that the two groups used and shared the same trails and paths, or at least being familiar with them. When asked about other sources of turquoise, DL said, quote, "Yes, well we get some from Hopi land. They come over here sometimes and bring it. Kingston Mountains is good too." Unquote. The interviewer further inquired about this contact with the Hopi and whether there is any recollection by a member of the southern Chemehuevi, and DL responded, "Sometimes I think, but different people live there. Sometimes we collect there." When asked if the Chemehuevi used or traded it, DL pointed towards the latter. "That is what was good for a lot. We did not do a lot of this though. Mainly we got it for ourselves and the Mojave sometimes." One of the last questions that were asked was if anyone could go and collect turquoise. DL said, "No. This is why some people could not go to the Kingman, because they were not of a certain group. You could only go to these places where your songs told you." Unquote. This implied that there might have been some sort of clan control over the mines, and refutes the previous consensus that indigenous Californians viewed resources as being available for everyone. The Mojave are another group who were part of this turquoise trade in southern eastern California, yet there exist no ethnographic or archaeological accounts that they mined the stone, only being middlemen in its trade. Yet one recorded piece of oral history talks about how, in their old homeland in the Mojave Desert, back when it was lush, there were turquoise mines. I overheard my father telling yours that he intended to make a hunting trip out into the desert to the old homeland of the Mojave. They also planned to visit the region of the old bluestone mines where the ancient ones of Arizona got their gems for jewelry." Unquote. What archaeological evidence exists for these mines? DL was given a map, and there he identified some turquoise mines in the Old Dad Mountains in California and Kingman, Arizona. Another place regarded as containing turquoise is the Providence, New York Mountains, which was known by the Chemehuevi as the Greenstone Mountains. An archaeological dig at the Himalayan turquoise mines found grass beds that were believed to have been of Chemehuevi origins. Pottery at the site belonged to what the archaeologist in the paper called Banamint brownware. more commonly known as Owens Valley brownware, or Southern Paiute utility ware. The mining of turquoise goes to show that indigenous Californian groups were not isolated, and were part of a larger trade network that brought them into contact with the peoples of the Southwest called Oasis America, evidence existing in the form of archaeological remains and oral traditions passed down from generation to generation, adding more to the understanding of the complex relationships indigenous Californians had with one another, and even beyond their cultural spheres.